from New York. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Ebro in the morning, minus Ebro. Rosenberg. Laura Stiles, you want to introduce your friend?
Yes, Eddie Huang is here.
What up? Thank you for having me back, Laura.
Wong's
Of
World.
course.
What's happening, man?
I'm chilling. You know, it's a tough day since we lost P yesterday.
Yep.
You know, I think all of New York is really waking up today, trying to make it make sense in their heads, put the pieces back together. Because I mean, I realized I found out about it on the way to the barbershop yesterday. It's like middle of the day, I think 11:30. I found out and couldn't believe it. You know,
It is a shocking piece of news. Now, I want to get to. Hold on, let's get a little bit of business out of the way so we can really go deep.
Yes.
Real
yes.
quick, you have Wong's World. There's a new season coming to Viceland, correct?
Yeah.
And when is that coming?
It drops June 28th. And if you got DirecTV, you got Comcast, you can actually binge watch all of the first 10 episodes of this season. And then if you in New York, we're doing the preview premiere June 27th, Gramercy Theater. Kill Cam will be performing. I will be there. And we will run through all our favorite clips, all the BTS, all the bloopers that aren't in the show.
So tight.
But yeah.
All right,
And
so
tickets at Ticketmaster?
Yeah, tickets at I think Gramercy Theater online.
Okay.
Yeah, they got some
Okay.
website.
there you go. You can
Some
find
sort.
it. If you know how to,
Google it.
honestly, if you don't know how to use
Use the
Google,
Google.
you can't even. You're not invited.
Yeah.
So we were just talking before we walked in here, and I did not realize how deep your relationship with Prodigy went on a personal level. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you know, I actually met P in 2011 when he first got out because I had just sent out the book proposal for Fresh Off the Boat. And when you send out a book proposal, if people like your book proposal, the next week you meet with publishers. And one of the publishers I met with was Simon & Schuster. And they had read the book. They saw the Prodigy Mobb Deep references in the book. And the dedication quote I had in there was from the song he did with Cam, Losing Weight, right? And so they said, listen, you know, we have P's book, we have The Infamous Life, and we got tickets to his first show in Nokia when he gets out. And so they gave me tickets. I think it was like a couple days later, I go to the show and I meet his manager, Marvis. And if you ever done anything with P, you know Marvis always with him. And then, you know, a month goes by, 2 months goes by, and I get a call from Marvis one day and he's like, yo, P is going to do Summer Jam tomorrow, but he wants to come through the Bauhaus before.
Which is your restaurant?
Yeah, which was my restaurant on Rivington Street, 137 Rivington. And P pulls up in a black SUV wearing all sorts of Lecoq Sportif. And he comes, he eats bows, he breaks bread with us. And from that point forward, we were friends. You know, like we became friends, we became fam. And he's the reason why it says The Infamous on all the shirts at Bauhaus. You know what I mean? Like some kids from, I don't know, whatever generation these kids are from. They don't know why. They ask, oh, why is it The Infamous? I'm like, dog, that's Mobb Deep. That's her inspiration, you know? And he put The Infamous on the Bauhaus.
So before, I'm trying to decide which direction I want to go. Okay, we'll get to some of his music and some of the Mobb Deep music and your just love of music in general. But what can you tell us about what he was like as a guy? I mean, we have our own experiences, but I'm curious. You know, you guys were just friends, and obviously you looked up to him and you were a fan. But then as a friend, what was he like?
Yeah, like as a fan, as a kid, I mean, I was about 12 years old, maybe 13 years old when The Infamous came out. I remember signing up for like fake accounts on Columbia BMG to get like the Infamous CD and the Hell on Earth CD, and me and my friends banged it. In the music, you saw him as just this cold-hearted, stab your brain with your nose bone dude. He was the toughest, but he was small too, you know? So a lot of us that were smaller dudes fuck with him because he was small. He was running around with the Hennessy jersey. I had never tasted Hennessy in my life, but I was like, yo, I can't wait to taste this Hennessy that's on his football jersey, you know? And
Sounds great.
Yes, Hennessy sounds great. It looks great on that shirt. And then, you know, I meet P, and he's everything you would expect from the music. He tells you all the stories, but he got this smile too, and he's funny. He'll talk to you about everything he said in the music, but then he'll also talk to you about spaceships and aliens and popular science. And like, he once told me, I had him on the layover with Bourdain, And in front of all of us on this food show, he's like, yeah, my favorite dish is Mongolian beef at P.F. Chang's. And I'm like, yo, you wildin', man.
Why is that a wild thing to say? Just that you would bust out on a serious food show to say your favorite thing is just P.F. Chang's?
Yeah, this show was all...
Like the highest level foodies?
course.
This show was all about Tony doing the layover. Like, if you have one place to eat in this city when you come, where would you eat? And P's like, yo, you gotta go to P.F. Chang's.
I mean, that's comedy.
It was the best. It was the best. And it wasn't, and he knew like what other people were going to think about it. It wasn't like he was oblivious. He was just like.
He didn't give a shit.
He didn't
He
care.
loves the fucking Mongolian beef.
He loves the Mongolian beef, and that Mongolian beef has held him down. And he's like, I'm giving props on this food show to P.F. Chang's Mongolian beef. And I was like, the next time we hung out, I took him out for like Korean hot pot. Right on 32nd Street.
Oh, I love that.
And I was like, you gotta eat these shrimps, you gotta eat these mussels and clams. And he was way into it, but he's like, yo, you know I still rock that Mongolian beef. And I just loved it. Like he was one of those dudes, like you saw him as a rapper, you knew him from the music, but in the flesh, he couldn't be anybody but himself. And he did not care to put on a mask or front or stun on anybody.
I think that's the one thing that we've been discussing. We've been talking about it all morning. How, like, especially living in New York, how just a regular cool dude he was. Like, you could see him like at a random restaurant, you could see him on the street or at a club or anywhere, and it was always the same person. Always show you love. I would see him talk to whoever came up to him and always like just be himself, man. I think that's the one thing that was so special because we all love him and he's a legend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when it came down to it, he never denied anybody conversation or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and
Just
also for a
sweet.
guy who went through a lot and comes out of jail, and it wasn't a short stint. It was 3 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And everyone when they first get out, in my experience, is a little different. You know what I'm saying? You have to adjust a little bit. But I only had met him one time before he left because he went away in 2008. So I interviewed him, and the interview is on YouTube. It's horrible quality. It was probably the first before we had a video department.
Right,
we were
right,
just shooting it with some camera. But I didn't know him. I'm just a fanboy. So when he comes back in 2011 is when I got to know him. And you could see it first. Like when you could see him loosen up as time went on. From 2011 on, he eased into his being back and being healthier and being more together and not having a mob anymore. I never saw him with a mob anymore.
Never. It
The
was
mob
just
was
him
no
and
longer
Marvis.
deep
No.
in the latter years. It was low-key P.
It was always him, his manager Marvis, and his cousin Tyreek. You know, like
And that was it, basically.
Yeah, it was just the three of them would pull up. You know, other dudes would come through from Queens and things like that, but it was always the three of them. They were always the ones I saw together. You know?
Let's listen to a couple meaningful joints. I remember Cypher's the first one who played me this version, the demo mix. You ever heard the demo mix of Quiet Storm?
Yeah. Long time ago.
Because Cypher was in the same studio where this was being mixed, and he just kept hearing the bass line over and over again, and he was like, "What the hell is going on in this room?" Kept hearing this.
Right.
Niggas is bad as shit. The fuck else could happen, yo? I don't think much more, son. Mother, yo.
That is the epitome of what we love. I mean, there's nothing. I don't know if there's another. I'm not saying it's my number one rap song of all time, but I'm saying no other song represents the sound and the feel of what I love more than that song.
Yo, I remember riding the school bus in high school waiting for that song to come on. The countdown is number one because you knew it was number one. You know what I mean? Since that beat dropped, you was like, this is going to be number one. You know what I mean? You know, as a kid, you're always guessing what's going to be number one. I was like, Quiet Storm is going to be in this spot for like the entire season.
There was just so many. It was just like, it just went on and on and on. The Mobb Deep run.
Yeah. I mean, even up to Free Agents, like that song Favorite Rapper.
I don't even know if I know Favorite Rapper.
Yeah.
I know this.
Of course.
I mean, and then I was looking over these hits. Do we even play this morning, Laura?
Nope. Well, unless I didn't hear, we were
might
like
have
talking out the end.
This was the dance track. Yeah.
And it's so funny because by their standards, we were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is mainstream."
Yeah, this was like the one song from Mob you could two-step to it.
And Hey Love, that was like, Oh, they put 112 on a song?
Yeah.
And then, this is when they started doing some commercial joints.
It's still tight though.
So tight.
So tight.
It's just endless. You know what's a sleeper? Not a sleeper. I mean, everyone loves it, but I don't know if we played it today though.
I don't think we played it today.
You know, the thing with it is like that I found interesting about Mobb Deep is there's always the conversation of like the greatest rappers, right? Everybody knows who's in the conversation, greatest rappers, Biggie, Nas, Jay-Z, Rakim. You know what I mean? Like, you know the usual suspects. But I've traveled around the world, and the two rappers, well, one is a group and one is a rapper, the two people that I have found most interesting around the world, that they're diehard fans that are like, look, I know I'm not supposed to like him the most, but he is my favorite. You see a lot of DMX fans because he was so idiosyncratic. There was nobody like DMX. And so just his energy and the way he barked, like cats, there's some cats in the crew that are just like, I'm the DMX fan.
Right.
You know?
Of course.
You know?
Absolutely.
And the other one is Mobb Deep and P. Like, you go to Paris, you go to London, you go to China, you go Santa Monica. Like, I know kids, I know Jewish dudes in Santa Monica I play ball with infamous mob shirts. And I was like, yo, he shit on LA. You know, like, that's your man's? And he's like, that's my man's. That's my favorite rapper of all time. Like, there's mad kids in LA I knew grew up, West Side Santa Monica, James Starr, what's good. Like, he swears, like, Prodigy is my favorite rapper of all time.
Bro, I said this on the air earlier. I hit Kendrick yesterday to say, hey, did you see Prodigy posted about you last week? Because Prodigy just posted about him.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he was like, nah. And I was just telling him.
He loved Kendrick.
And Kendrick was obsessed. I didn't know Kendrick was obsessed. Kendrick sent me a voice note back just rapping Prodigy bars. He said the reason that he met his manager and best friend, Dave Free, the reason they became best friends was their mutual love of Mobb Deep.
That's so
that
crazy.
And when you think about Kendrick being the most important, well, he's the most important rapper in the world, but the most important rapper on the West Coast, certainly in a very long time also. And to know that so much of him was shaped by a guy who epitomized New York rap.
Yeah.
I mean, Prodigy is, that sound is, if someone said, what's New York rap? If you met an alien and they said, what's New York rap? The likelihood of me playing Mobb Deep is super high. It's Wu or Mobb Deep. Like, that's probably what you're going to play if you have to play something.
Yeah, it's that minor key chamber music, and I think that even beyond just even the New York sound, I think you can go even larger and say, like, the underground rap sound is absolutely defined by Mobb Deep. I won't use the backpack term, you know what I mean? Because he didn't like that. A lot of dudes, Buckshot didn't like being called a backpack rapper, but that underground hip hop sound, like, I think the best way to call it is like the hip hop for heads that like were at the record shop every Tuesday, copping whatever drop, like the people that were really, picking apart and dissecting the culture. For those fans, like, Mobb Deep is their group.
But the interesting thing is, it's important with Mobb Deep for people to realize that at the time in which they came along, which is pre-97 Bad Boy, the separation of hip hop, right? The pre-Raucous era. In the pre-Raucous Bad Boy separation, which I always talk about, where like it went indie and it went mainstream. They existed before then.
Yeah.
And in that time before then, it wasn't only white nerds like me and Asian nerds like you. It was also black kids in the hood who listened to them.
Yeah,
they had everyone, and they still are. And because after that separation happened, a lot of the people who got called backpack rap, it almost went straight to the white kids in the record store, and it skipped the hood. Mobb had both. Mobb was
without a doubt.
They'd be played early night in the club. And I mean, Shook Ones became a primetime record, of course, which by the way is hilarious. I'm talking about that with my wife yesterday. I'm like, you know this song, right? She's like, yeah, I know this song. And I'm like, how is this song a mainstream hit? Like, it's a mainstream hit.
Well, that's the reason why they have the dedicated fans, the nerds all around the world. Whatever record shop in the world, Tuesday, those were the fans going to cop or going to steal the record, whatever, is because that underground hip-hop from the 90s, the stuff that Mobb Deep was a part of, that was what was real. It wasn't like a dramatized, theatrical, thespian version of the music, and that's what translates. That's what will resonate forever and ever and ever.
I think one thing too, because we were talking about what a great life he had, like from being like a young kid in the arts, you know what I mean, and like his family being in the arts, and like his success with his music. But even afterwards, going to jail, coming out, like with his books. Even I was telling Rosenberg the last conversation I had with Prodigy was during his book signing of Commissary Kitchen. And, him coming out and just really open, because he never really talked about being sick. He never wanted anyone to feel sorry for him. And it's like, we knew he was suffering from sickle cell, but it wasn't like a thing that he would normally talk about. And he was just in a really amazing space when I spoke to him, because he's like, look, I have this cool book about Commissary Kitchen, about creative ways, the ways we had to deal when we were incarcerated to make semi-decent meals. But it was he had an honest conversation with me about how hard it was to access basic nutritional needs that he needed by being incarcerated and being sick. And he was really passionate about wanting to just really talk about that, because he felt that that's something that people weren't really know.
But it's amazing that he flipped it and still had such a positive life, because it would have been so easy to deal with that illness and then run into the issues that he had and kind of have a miserable life.
Right.
And it just doesn't seem like that doesn't seem to be how he lived. Certainly over the last several years when I knew him.
P's brain never stopped working, and he never stopped reflecting on what was going on. I was on the road for Huang's World, traveling around, and he sent me the manuscript for Commissary Kitchen. And he was like, yo, E, I would love for you to write this forward. I still have the text saved. I still remember the day P asked me. And I remember laying down in bed with my laptop after a day of shooting. I read the first 50 pages of the cookbook, and I was like, yo, this is not a cookbook. This is a memoir. It's a slice of his life in jail, told through his struggle with food, told through his struggle with sickle cell. I read the whole cookbook, and then I wrote the foreword. And it's one of the greatest honors of my life. You know what I mean? That one of my heroes asked me to write the foreword. And it also, I just love to see that this legend continued to create in so many ways, in so many different forms. I mean, we helped him with his smorgasbord. He wanted to go sell food at smorgasbord. And
he did? Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was all the Bauhaus cooks. We set it up for him. We helped him make the food. We helped him do it. And, we stayed in touch because P never wanted to stop creating. He always
we
had
just
another
talked
story to
about
tell.
how he was working on an off-Broadway show.
Yeah.
About how the Illuminati affected people, the way that people intake music, especially hip-hop. But it was crazy because he continued to create.
Yeah. He a true storyteller in every shape of the word. A lot of people I'm a rapper, or I'm a writer, or I'm a singer. P, he trying to do it with the cookbook. He trying to do it with the memoir. He trying to cook the actual food. P never stopped. He never stopped.
Couple rare joints that you're a true head, so.
Forever wild from the cradle to the grave, kid.
This is the intro.
One time's coming always. They locked me up for 12 days.
Play some rarities. Do you remember this one?
Now I'm a free man on the streets again.
If you were to dig around and try to find all the bootlegs they had, Gun Love, you remember this?
Yeah.
It's a love song about guns.
Oh my God.
This is before Montel Jordan took the
So many of their beats too got flipped. I'm Quiet Storm. When you pulled out Quiet Storm was the pound cake beat for that generation. Everybody was on that Quiet Storm beat.
And people still rap on that beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would really suggest people delve into I admittedly missed some of the last couple albums, but in the immediately pre and immediately post jail years, immediately pre-jail, he had the Return of the Mac album. And Return of the Mac was fucking incredible. And it had this record on it, which was a banger.
I sit alone in my dirty ass room staring at candles. On drugs. All alone with my hand on
That was
the
him
Mac
doing a
10
DMX
handle.
song.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
And then, of course, it's one of the hardest records ever. And the fact that he sampled Pac for the chorus, I find to be incredible as well, given their history.
I got 11 Mac 11s, 38s, 99s, 10 Mac 10s. The shit don't end.
You know the thing is too is P was a crazy humble dude, and I think that he knew how influential he was, but he didn't go around telling everybody. And when you met him, he was not trying to convince you he was the rapper on the record. He wasn't trying to convince you of all the stories from Queensbridge. He was just like, I'm a human being, I'm P.
It's really true. That it's a good. Again, I didn't know him as well, but you're right. That is how he came off.
That's what I'm
Just
saying.
like-
He was just a regular dude.
He
when you run
dressed
into him.
regular but in the last
he was
years,
still
dressed
wearing
regular. did everything.
camouflage cargo shorts.
Right,
fam.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like he stayed down. But one of my favorite moments is when it's like enough is enough and P's like, let me tell you what I've done. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the best is when he has been humble, but like you take the kindness for weakness. And I mean, I remember he wrote that blog post of like, these are all the things I influenced.
By the way, a lot of those were true.
It's all facts.
We went through them this morning.
It's facts.
Like he really did. I mean, and from a language standpoint, what he did for the language and the dialect that is
Yes.
used in this
Done
game,
language.
Done language
Yeah.
is it.
the
Yeah.
dumb language is
Infamous
real.
mob,
Yeah.
yo.
I mean, he influenced like the first Taiwanese Chinese New York sandwich shop downtown. You know what I mean? Like that.
Exactly.
Like, he is the inspiration. Like we stay repping P. You know?
Now, real quick, when are you gonna make enough money from the TV, the books, the restaurants to buy the Redskins so we can?
Oh
P,
Lord.
I'm ready. Okay, I'm ready. All right.
Is that a dream of yours?
Yeah. First, I need to keep the Knicks from trading Porzingis because I'm like, what is really good?
So that's right now. That's your number one focus
That's
today.
my number one focus today because I actually like what the Redskins did this offseason.
Right.
Like, I would love, though, for us to come together. We should meet at the Chase Bank, you
Yep.
know what I mean, on Bowery.
Okay.
And we should put our funds together.
Oof.
I would change the name. I would change the name.
So would I.
All right. I love Washington Football Club, football
I
team,
don't-
whatever.
I don't give a damn.
I don't give a damn.
By the way, they're definitely not going to change it now that Supreme Court decision
Yeah.
happened this week.
Yes, that
So-
it was interesting. That it was like the most bittersweet decision because in some
Tell
ways,
Laura. Laura hasn't heard this yet. Explain the decision
this
because
court decision allows you to maintain a trademark or a property despite it being mildly or very racially offensive or insensitive. But it's a double-edged sword for me because I owned a trademark for Fresh Off the Boat, right? And so I own that mark, and that mark is me reclaiming that word.
because
you know?
people were offended by that term. Fob was like a thing, right?
Fob is a thing that you don't want a person outside the culture calling you a fob.
Right.
Like I knew Korean people specifically who used that word, but yeah, it was their own word.
Yeah, we
Right.
call each other fobs. We call our moms fobs. You know, you slip up doing something, you're like, yo, you just fobbed out, right? But that's our word.
Right.
And then one of the main things in the Supreme Court case was that there is an Asian band called the Slants. And it's them.
This was the
reclaiming it.
crux of the case, Laura, is this band.
Yeah, the crux of the case is banned, and it's saying that we cannot infringe on First Amendment rights. Like if people want to use this language that's racially insensitive or borderline hateful, we cannot infringe on that First Amendment right. So then,
And of course, you had to support on the side that's a bunch of Asian American kids who want to call their band a word that is racially insensitive for other people. It would be like NWA. It would be
Yeah.
like if NWA wasn't
yeah,
allowed
yeah.
to be called. So they're like, fuck that. We're Asian American. This is the name of our band.
Yeah.
And the law upholds that. The Supreme Court, rightfully, I think, says, no, of course you can call yourself that.
Right.
But the flip side of that coin.
the flip side of it is now Daniel Snyder can call his football team the Redskins.
Right,
and I
right,
think
right.
that's the difference. I think one of the things I would bring up as an attorney is there's like cultural exceptions to things, right? Like if you open a restaurant in New York and you have a beer and wine license, but you're an Asian restaurant, you can serve soju because that's a traditional like liquor, right? It's basically Korean vodka. But if you're an Asian restaurant, there's a cultural exception with the beer and wine license, you can sell soju. I think that Supreme Court case should be, look, if you want to say something racially insensitive about your own culture, fine. But like, you cross the line when it's, all right, we're going to let people from other cultures trademark hateful language towards other groups.
Right.
That's where I think
So the question would be, though, is where that line gets drawn because
Yeah, I
Dan
see.
Snyder comes in and goes, the vice president of my internal blah, blah, blah is Asian. He supports this organization.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm guessing there's multiple ways people would try to get around that, but I couldn't agree. We are on the exact same page.
Yeah, for all the New Yorkers out there that hate Dolan, just Daniel Snyder is 10 times the bum James Dolan is. Just imagine that.
But I will say,
Fantasize about that.
but interestingly enough, But interestingly enough, the Redskins are definitely in better shape than the Knicks.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
Like we, for the first time in a long time, and don't get me wrong, the Scott McLuhan thing was like broke my heart.
Yeah,
I was
loved
heartbroken.
him.
I loved him.
Yeah.
So the fact that we let him go, I think, was a huge disaster. And the fact that we don't just get a deal done with Kirk Cousins and have to keep playing this game every offseason, it also drives me insane. You're not for signing Kirk Cousins.
I'm not for signing Kirk Cousins. I will tell you why is I think that when you look at teams that tie themselves to a quarterback at a franchise pay level that is not a franchise quarterback, that is just the easy way to be like, we're going to make the playoffs every year and we're going to lose. Like, I don't want to just make the playoffs.
So you think they know that about Kirk and you don't think they're wrong?
Yeah, they know that about Kirk because Kirk in the red zone, he can't make the reads. He doesn't make the reads in the red zones, and then also he doesn't put his foot on your neck when he needs to when he's up in the first, second quarter.
I got to tell you, you make a very strong point. And
Yeah.
where do you mostly live?
I live in New York mainly, right? I mainly live in New York. I do
Downtown?
a week every month. Yeah, downtown.
I saw you boxing in Times Square the other day.
Yeah. My trainer, Edgar Santana, the pride of Spanish Harlem.
Yeah. He's in my neighborhood.
Yeah,
I
he's
know
the man.
him.
Yeah, he is the man. He brought me out to Times Square. I'm like, yo, E, what are we doing? We're way out here. And he was like, I want you to train with the pressure. I want you to see these people. I have them walk by you, and I want to see if you can stay focused. And it's hot, and it was like 95 degrees.
It was
Yo.
right in front of the the theater
Yeah,
benches.
TKTS.
Right there. I was like, what?
I was like, this is crazy, man. We look wild douchey out here. He's like, do you trust me? Do you trust me?
Wild douchey. Yeah. Don't worry, I always look wild douchey.
Yeah.
All right, I want to do another hour, but we have another guest we have to get to. Eddie's show on Viceland is coming back. He has a show celebrating it. Highline? Gramercy
Gramercy.
Theater. Get tickets to that. Watch
Killer
the show
Cam
when
on
it
the
comes
set.
back.
That's gonna be tight.
Can we do that? Let's do this again soon, and let's you and I just get together for some more in-depth Redskins talk.
Yo, I'd love to. We should watch a game.
We should actually. You know what? I think I should put together a little. There's a good Redskins crew.
Yeah.
Of people who are pretty interesting, who all root for this annoying ass team.
Oh, Lord.
Eddie, thank you so much, bro.
Thank you,
Thanks,
man.
Eddie.
Take care, y'all.